This podcast is brought to you by our Anime Addicts community. If you want to help out the show, if you want to get all of our extra content, you know what you have to do. You got to go to our Patreon page, of course. Patreon.com/AAAPodcast. Hit it up. Help out the show. If you don't want to use Patreon, you can also use our website, AAAPodcast.com/join. You can go through that avenue just as good as the other. We'll appreciate all the support you give. We'll load you up with a ton of extra content for you. We got our Hobby Addicts, our Hentai episodes, and so much more. So check us out, support the show. And now, let's get going. It's time for the 2024 Anime Oscars Award Show, where on this podcast, we come through and we tell you what our community thinks are the best and brightest anime from the previous year. So welcome in. I am your host, Mitsugi, and I am joined by a beautiful crew. We have another bald man, 50% market share on the show of bald men. It's Otaku Cop. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't corner the market on handsome bald man. I have to share it with you. But I'm super excited to talk about the year that was 2024.
Being bald is all I have left, so please don't take my small piece of the market share. It's very important. And we also have Caroline. She's not bald. She's looking beautiful.
Oh,
how are you,
thank you very
Caroline?
much.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, I'm doing well. While you guys have 50% of the ratio here with baldness, Mason and I are taking up the other 50% with hydration because we are both drinking water. So there you have it. 50% hydrated, 50% bald. That is the AAA podcast right now.
I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. And Mason, I'm proud of Mason because he has everything that I want. Rippling muscles, big brains, and flowing, gorgeous hair. Oh my God. Mason, he's in the house. Oh, beautiful. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you. You know, something here for radio, as they say. So glad to be here. Glad to talk about 2024 and all the anime that came out. Well, a good bit of the anime. We're not going to go everything that came out because it's a lot. It's always a lot. It's maybe too much, but there's some winners in there.
Yeah, I looked back at the prior year, all the different seasons that came out, and I realized that not only were there quite a lot. I'm gonna stand by the position that 2024 had quite a lot of good anime, but more than that, a lot of anime that just came back from the dead, like they had been gone for quite a while, and they came back and they were still really good. So overall, I think 2024 was a really good year, especially for Netflix. I think Netflix had a lot of good stuff on it, and I found myself really watching a lot of anime on Netflix this year, and their dubbing's hit or miss, but I'm happy to have it either way. What do you guys think?
Of the opinion that there have been a few really, really good shows that everybody was talking about. But other than them, I don't feel like this year has hit the heights of previous years in recent memory. So, cynical, I know, but...
You don't think 2024 matches up to the likes of 2023 and maybe 2022?
I don't know. I would have to double check, because I haven't compared the years very closely, but... Just that as a feeling, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have any good anime. It's just, I feel like some certain anime really, really cornered the market of the anime conversation this year.
Caroline is trapped in spring of 2023, along with myself, with notable hits such as Island of the Dead and Bone Yuchan. How can you possibly size up to those?
You speak the truth.
I do. Mason, what do you think?
I would agree with the Mitts.
Oh,
both
wow.
in the fact that, because it seems like you made two assertions. One, that Netflix seemed to get some really dynamite, massive shows that were of great quality, and I have to agree from front to back, from Dungeon Meshi at the beginning all the way through to Dan 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 at the end. They really had a great selection of shows, and yeah, even if you don't watch the dubs they put out, just the fact that they're an option, they're there. I'm not a Netflix shill by any means, but if I was putting on something on Netflix, even stuff that we're not going to talk about in 2024's Oscars this year, like Orb, I was a better chance of finding something I liked than I didn't. But as far as 2024 as a whole for anime, even though it didn't have maybe the 10 out of 10s or stuff that really lands as like a hallmark classic in my book, I think objectively across the board, I rated shows higher this year than I have in the past. And while objective quality is very vague, my average score in 2024 was like a 54 out of 100, which is a lot higher than like my 47s in past years. So I guess I like 2024. The numbers don't lie. So there you go.
Do you have the numbers for any of the rest of us, or just for yourself? I think we all know objectively I give the highest scores on this podcast. So
I can find that. I was just looking up based on like my AniList stuff, but let me run the numbers while we
You don't have to.
Otaku tells us how
like
he really feels.
That seems like a lot of effort, but if you feel like you want to, yeah, Otaku Cop. Are you
Jason loves the numbers.
Are you more with Caroline? Are you stuck in April of 2023, or are you living life large in 2024? What do you think?
I'm living life large here in 2024. 2024 restored my confidence in the remake. So you had Rama 1/2 come back, you had Spice and Wolf, and I was very skeptical to see how those came along, but I was very pleasantly surprised, and it gives me hope for some, potentially future remakes down the line. I thought that they were done very well. Rama 1/2 does fall into your Netflix umbrella, though, and they just killed it. I thought they did an awesome job, and I thought 2024 was also a really strong year for both the fantasy genre and the romance genre. I thought there were a lot of great romance comedies, romance dramas, and the fantasy genre. There is at least 5 or 6 shows every season that I could have watched, and I like to think I'm probably the most positive person on this panel, and I would have enjoyed most of them. I thought 2024 wasn't, breaking any records, but I thought it was overall a very solid and entertaining year.
Okay, I guess maybe I'm just wrong then. Everybody else seems to have a very
No,
different
you
memory
can't.
of this year. I could just be wrong.
You're not able to be wrong. It's your opinion.
It is a matter of opinion.
Maybe my opinion is a bad one. We'll see.
Well, that's normally people say that about me, so you can have it for now. Yeah, I mean, with Bleach coming back, Natsume came back, Konosuba came back, sort of. Hibike Euphonium came back, and like all these shows were still really good. So I feel like a lot of these fan bases that just hadn't had anything in a while, they got their fix, I guess, and the fix was good. So nothing quite like having your favorite show come back after like 4 years or whatever it was for something like Hibike Euphonium, and then have it suck, which AKA like the One Punch Man treatment or one of these. These all ended up being pretty good shows, and we're going to be hearing about them today. So, yeah, I was happy to see that personally. So, what other comments do you guys want to make? Anything pertinent?
I never say anything pertinent, but I'm excited for 2025, as strange as that seems as we're talking about 2024, but there's a bunch of carryover shows, and there's a bunch of shows that we've talked about and will talk about this year that are getting sequels and stuff next year. So I feel like the future is bright now and bright going forward. So I think there's a lot of optimism in the anime sphere right now. I feel like the medium is growing, the fan base is growing, the type of shows we're getting are just continuing to come out. And yes, we're getting a lot, as I alluded to earlier, but there's still a lot of gems coming out, and I feel good. I feel like now is the best time, as always, to be an anime fan. So, feeling good, trying to bring in that positivity. I can't quite do it on Otaku's level, but I'm trying.
Maybe it'd also be good to remind people, especially if they haven't voted, they might not have known this about our voting process, but only anime series that have had one season conclude in the calendar year of 2024 were included in the nominees. So if you're asking, oh, why isn't this show nominated? Well, it could be because it's still, or it has not concluded in last year. And if it concluded in the last 3 months, it'll be in next year's Oscars, potentially.
Yeah, like you're not going to see One Piece in here because One Piece, it hasn't ended. It's never going to end. But, primarily TV shows from winter 2024, spring, summer, and fall 2024 are in here. If a show came out in the winter of 25 and it had like a week of it airing in December, we're not going to count that. So just so you guys know. And other than the movie category, there's no movies, there's no OVAs in here. It's just TV shows. We've talked about many of them on the podcast. And the selections were made entirely by listener vote. So we did pick a lot of the nominees, but we did not participate really in the voting. So this is entirely driven by the listeners. And every category, as always, has an abstain category. So if you're like me and you just didn't watch any anime movies, for instance, I'm happy to click that abstain button. Or if I just don't know any of the ending theme songs or whatever, and for one of the music categories, I'll click that abstain button because, if I have only seen one of the things in the list, then I don't really feel like my opinion's very good. So we try to tighten this up and make it somewhat accurate by having people just not vote for the one show that they had seen out of the 7 or 8 that got picked. So we do have an abstain option, and it does get used. So.
And I do want to mention, despite the diversity in every single category of shows to pick from, like there's, 8 or 9 shows of who's the best action show, who's the best fantasy show. Every show that got nominated received at least 1 vote. So no one, no show got completely snubbed. So, there's something for everyone out there. So even if you don't agree with the results, I think we're going to have some good discussions about them and try to get to the bottom of who has the best taste. And it's you, listener.
That's you, yeah.
Specifically.
It's not me, that's for sure. Yeah.
No.
I'm rooting for Delicious in Dungeon. That was my pick for the best of the year. I hope it's on the list somewhere, and we're going to find out. But I think that show was just very fun and creative and had a lot of heart. And I'm looking forward to the second season that I think is coming soon. So, but I'm really hoping for Delicious in Dungeon. Do you guys have anything you're really pulling for before we get started?
I'm rooting for Raven, but I don't think it's really going to win anything. But I'm just hoping for a good representation of the Raven Does Not Choose Its Master fans, because even though it's not the most talked about show from this last year, I think it was one of the best.
I'm pulling for some Rama 1/2 to win something. It was just such a great readaptation.
You are a Rama 1/2 shill.
I am what I am. I'm a man who loves his Rama.
He stands by his convictions. I also enjoyed Rama. Mason, what are you pulling for?
I just want someone to watch some goddamn movies around here. So I hope people voted for the movies. I hope people voted for movies, and we can see who won. That's all I want.
If they'd quit putting them in the movie theater at like $28 a ticket, I'd go see more of these movies. But like the specialty movie rate at like Regal is killing me.
I'm sure.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So, all right. Well, we start off with our sort of aesthetic categories. So we have categories related to the visuals and the aesthetics of anime. And then we get into the genre categories. And we wrap up with the best of the year. So we have these marked off on our document here. They're all colorized. So, and I think we'll give the top 2 results. I think that makes sense. But I'm not going to read any more than the top 2. So the first category is best animation. So I think animation in some ways gets better and better in some studios, and in other studios it seems to get worse. But there's always a few anime every year that just have outstanding animation and just stand apart from all the rest. Both, and I don't think this necessarily is just how well it moves, but I like to think that the stylization and the creativity of the way it's drawn also should matter. So it does say style and quality on our poll. So the nominees for Best Animation 2024 were Dawn, Delicious in Dungeon, Demon Slayer, Hashira Training, Rama 1/2, Solo Leveling, and Hibike Euphonium Season 3. So already seeing some of these anime that kind of came back from the dead on the list here. So, all right. And the winner of Best Animation for 2024 is... It's Dawn. So, probably because, well, I mean, the OP was fire. It looked really great. The stylization of it was super awesome. I think that's Science Sawdu entirely, pretty much behind that with the direction they wanted to go with it. But yeah, and second, it had 50.6% of the vote, so absolutely just destroyed the poll. Actually getting more votes than every other option combined. And the second highest voted option on the list here was Solo Leveling, got 17.4%. But obviously, just an absolute massacre. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Definitely think Dandadan deserved the quality part of it over Solo Leveling. Solo Leveling has its moments, but it's not at all as consistent as Dandadan. And with Dandadan is just so creative with how they use its color and the different animation, the perspectives they give. Like I saw a little video about the acrobatic Silky. Her backstory was one of the most difficult to animate in the entire show, and it really shows. So it was a great one for this category.
Mason?
Yeah,
any thoughts?
When I made my nominations for here, I was trying to distribute where I gave my love, and my nomination here was for Delicious and Dungeon, which I think really did a lot to elevate it compared to the manga. You look at Dandadan, and the manga looks amazing, and while the anime did a phenomenal job of bringing that to animation, and I think it definitely deserves to win, I think Delicious and Dungeon probably did the most, like it had the biggest delta in its quality uptick, and I just love how things looked, and a lot of parts of that could have fallen apart, and I think that show really appealed to me, and not just because I'm a Trigger fanboy. So I think that really hit a nice balance, but no real complaints with Dandadan winning at all.
I agree with him. It's just Dandadan, the fight sequences, even just the way they animated the characters when they were in their downtime for the comedic spots. It just, every episode for me was a hit, from the music to the animation, and it was just so well done. Every episode, there's more than one moment for me where I could say, God, that looked amazing. That fight looked amazing. That looked amazing. And it was just an absolute home run animation-wise. I can't argue with that winning by any stretch.
Well, I think to go back to what Otaku briefly mentioned, Solo Leveling has some awesome cuts in its animation, especially during the fight sequences.
Yep.
But there's a lot of downtime between those where it does look a little choppy, whereas Dandadan did not really falter across the board. And even the slice of life day-to-day stuff really was mesmerizing. And so, yeah, I think no one's like, oh, Dandadan won this? How? Like, we know. It looks good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's... And no one that saw Dandadan is too surprised, I don't think, honestly, so... I was surprised for it to get 50.6%. I mean, that's
a lot, but
that's
not
a lot.
The biggest victory of the night.
Which I think we're about to get to right now, probably. We'll see. Otaku Cop, would you like to announce the next category?
Absolutely. So our next category is for Best OPED, and there were a lot of good nominees in this one, too. We had Solo Leveling, Dandadan, Delicious and Dungeon, a lot of the people you would expect to be there. But our winner, to absolutely no one's surprise, with 63.4% of the vote, the Dandadan OP.
And the Pikmin. The Pikmin really won the award for Dandadan here. So... Yeah,
I think it's Creepy Nuts that really won this category, because the only other OP that gave any fight in this category, just barely, was National Season 2 OP, which they also did. Even that only got like 13.6% of the vote. I was expecting a little bit more of a fight, but still, they won this category.
It's funny because I don't like Mashal Season 2 OP. I don't.
You don't like Bing Bong Bong Bing Bong?
I don't. I don't.
That doesn't make you want to do your squats, Mason?
No, it really doesn't. And while it's funny how similar it is
fuck no.
to Dandadan's, but it's different. it hits completely different. And I find that it's interesting that it's just the difference between like a pretty good OP, which that Bling Bang Bang Born is, versus Otonoke. Like it just a little bit goes a long way in like being from pretty good to spectacular and something you can't get off repeat. I do want to mention though, Oshinoko season 2 was in 3rd place with about 7% of the vote, and season 1 of Oshinoko won Best OP last year. So, I thought that OP, while still good, fall from grace compared to how good season 1 was, and just how memorable. Once again, Dandadan just the cream of the crop.
Yeah, I wonder if they got YOASOBI to do the opening again, if that would have brought more attention to that opening. But it's also kind of hard to... It's hard to come back from such a lightning in the bottle OP for a season 2 and make it just as good. And I even love that OP myself. I think I might have even been the one to nominate it for this category. But yeah, even between like Dandadan and Mashal, the visuals in Dandadan just overcome Mashal hands down.
But it will be interesting with Dandadan season 2 coming out next year when it's not fresh, it's not as new. How is that OP going to do next year?
Is it going to hang in there?
Exactly. So, sorry, Otaku, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the reason why it was so strong is the sound that Creepy Nuts has for the Dandadan opening. It's very unique, but that opening is the sum of its parts. The animations combined with the music, it's not only a bop, but it's hard to tear your eyes away because it's such a cool intro to watch. So I am guilty of skipping plenty of openings. I have no shame in saying that, but I would always watch Dandadan all the way through because it was just that fun to watch and listen to. I think nothing stood a chance going up against it.
I was surprised how little people seemed to talk about Oshinoko season 2. It seemed like everybody was talking about Oshinoko season 1. Then, I went to Japan. I certainly saw a lot of Oshinoko stuff in Japan, including an Oshinoko vending machine that made fresh squeezed orange juice, which I thought was super bizarre. But for us, I don't think there's any reason why that was themed that way. But it just didn't seem to get the attention that the first season got. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just wasn't hanging out in the right places. But I will say also that there were some theme songs on here that like I thought were really good that from 24 that didn't even get nominated. Like I really thought the Kaiju number 8 theme song was good. It had a really sort of a not very memorable video to go with the opening theme song, but I thought the song itself was good. I don't know. It's all opinion, especially with something like music. But yeah, I think it's a tough category. I mean, you could probably, depending on people's opinions, you could probably put dozens of shows here. So
yeah, I think Kaiju number 8's OP. I think that was a bit of a divisive opinion because I also liked the song. A lot of people didn't actually.
Really?
I think it might have something to do with the fact that it was like a Youngblood song, which is not. It's kind of strange how they did a Youngblood and One Republic to do the opening and ED, if I remember correctly, which I kind of liked. But yeah, people just did not gravitate towards it.
All right, shall we move on?
I think so.
Mason, I think this next one's yours.
Yeah, moving on to the genre awards. Starting off with Best Comedy. The nominees are Konosuba Season 3, Maka-ine, Too Many Losing Heroines, Pseudo Harem, Rama 1/2, A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics, and Yakuza Fiancé.
Fiancé?
Wow.
Fancy.
Fiancé. We're getting fancy here. Yakuza Fiancé. And your winner for the Best Comedy of 2024 is Konosuba Season 3.
Didn't see it coming.
This
If
was a
Dandadan was in
pretty...
this category, do you think it would have won?
It's probably.
I mean, yes. This was a pretty well contested series for the top. I mean, you had Konosuba at 30%, and then second place you had Ranma 1/2 to Otaku's Delight at 24%. How do you feel about that?
I actually think that speaks to the quality of the remake. I think coming in second to something like Konosuba, I think that's really, really strong. I'm happy with it. It shows that it got some absolutely justified love.
I think it says more about Konosuba. I mean, it seems like a lot of shows start to get stale or kind of lose their way as they get a little long in the tooth. So now you're on season 3 of Konosuba. It's still getting great critical acclaim and still getting voted in categories with other shows that are really good. I mean, that's it could have just as easily have been a terrible season 3 that no one really cared about, but instead it continues to be good. So I think that says a lot, actually.
Yeah, especially for a comedy when it can so easily get so stale compared to other things like dramas where things develop further. Not to say Konosuba doesn't at all, just assuming that because it's a comedy doesn't do as much. But yeah, I think this is fair. And I know some people were confused as to why the Salad Bowl of Eccentrics made it as a nomination. It's because I liked it, okay?
Salad Bowl. Well, it didn't get last, so...
Exactly. So there you go.
A lot of people abstained in this category. That also jumps out at me as being kind of interesting because this is an entire genre. So that just means that our audience isn't watching comedy. For a lot of them aren't watching comedy. So
I mean, if I had to vote, I've seen 2.5 of these. Like I haven't seen Pseudo Harem, I haven't seen Salad Bowl, I haven't seen Yakuza Fancy. So like I wouldn't feel comfortable with voting in this category without seeing all of those.
Yeah, I think it's also could possibly because like half of them are marketed as romances, not just comedies. So maybe that could be part of the reason.
Does love always have to be so funny?
Why.
In anime, it does. I thought Maka Ine was probably my favorite out of all these shows if I had to pick one. But it's it toes the line between comedy and romance, or it has a lot going for it. Whereas something like Konosuba is more of a one-track comedy. So it comes down to, did the listeners vote on which of these was the best show or which of these was the best comedy? And I think you get some variation in that.
Yeah, I only saw Rom the One Half, and I've seen about half of Yakuza Fiancé, so I'm pretty sure I abstained when I voted. I did vote. So,
nice.
For all my favorites. All right, I saved this category for Caroline.
All right, this is the best drama slice of life category. So we have in the nominations The Apothecary Diaries, Girls Band Cry, Oshinoko Season 2, A Sign of Affection, Bison Wolf, Unnamed Memory, and Yatagarasu, the Raven Does Not Choose Its Master. I wonder who put that in the category.
Who was that?
Who could have possibly did that? Okay, and the winner of Best Drama / Slice of Life is The Apothecary Diaries with nearly 38% of the vote. And coming up behind that is Oshinoko Season 2.
Oshinoko Season 2, second place. Oshinoko Season 1 last year, second place. Man, always just outside.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Apothecary Diaries just curb stomped this group of anime. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, if you take out the abstain, it doubled up the whole rest of the field. So, I mean, it's not that different than Dawn to Dawn in this category. Just a bloodbath.
I do like this category because I feel like there's a good amount of variation in the nominees because we got some slice of life, some romance, some music, some mystery. It's kind of running the gamut here.
I was a little surprised. Well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I guess no one likes Spice and Wolf anymore because it was. I mean, it's a small enough piece of the pie chart that the number's not even on the chart for it. So it got, at best, I would say 8% of the vote, which is really bad. And I really didn't think it was a bad remake. It was an unnecessary remake, but it wasn't bad. I watched the whole thing. So Horo was still awesome. I mean, she's still a S-tier waifu, 100%.
We'll find out when we get to our best girl, but I feel like
we'll
Otaku has some thoughts about this.
Yeah, he's chomping at it.
I mean, I'm surprised Spice and Wolf didn't get more love, and I'm guilty of not having seen Yatagarasu yet, but I mean, Apothecary Diaries was still one of my favorite shows from the last season. So I'm perfectly at peace with it winning. The story and the characters absolutely put it over the top in my opinion. But I do like the fact that it got so much love across the spectrum, because I thought A Sign of Affection was a very strong drama as well, and it deserves some of the love that it got.
Yeah, I agree. Science fiction was pretty good for this category.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, about Spice and Wolf, I mean, it is a remake, so you can't really expect people to come in with such a passionate love for it to put it over some other of the really great shows that came out new this year.
I mean, clearly. I mean, it was so unnecessary. I just don't think very many people watched it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think it was. I think the ship has sailed, for sure. There's so much anime now that, like, it's really easy to have something get lost in the shuffle. So, but okay. I don't really have too many more comments. Anybody else?
No, I think we're good here.
All right. Now we have what is usually a really tough category because there's so much here, just generally speaking. Best Action Adventure. There's always a large selection of shows here from this category. So the nominees here are Bleach, 1,000 Year Blood War, The Conflict, another one coming back from, I mean, I guess it had a season before, but Bleach was gone for so long. It's nice to see it back. Dawn to Dawn, Demon Slayer, Hashira Training, The Elusive Samurai, Solo Leveling. Well, Solo Leveling's cajillion million downloads for their game. Put them over the top here. We'll see. Undead Unluck and Wistoria, Wand and Sword. And the winner of Best Action Adventure is Dawn to Dawn. With 35.7% of the vote. Not too far behind Solo Leveling with 28%. So only about a 7 to 8% difference. But these two anime pretty much swallowed the field. There wasn't a whole lot else here that was relevant. It's a lot of small pie pieces here that we're looking at. What do you guys think? Dawn to Dawn yet again. Is it a big yawn? Are we yawning?
I don't think it's a yawn. I think it's justified. Although I will say that I am surprised that Solo Leveling didn't get more. Because if you're going from just purely action, I still thought that maybe Solo Leveling was better as far as just raw action was concerned, but there probably wasn't enough of it to push it past Dawn to Dawn, because it's just Dawn to Dawn's a behemoth and it just cannot be beat this year.
It also came out
any other year. If it was any other year and Dawn to Dawn wasn't in this category, I think Solo Leveling would have taken it very easily.
Any recency bias?
Probably little.
Potentially. I mean, you hear about how much love Solo Leveling Season 2 is getting right now, but is it going to be able to withstand that over another year for when we do this in 2025?
It's true.
We'll find
That's
out.
True.
I mean,
we'll see.
The one thing, once again, to go back to the past, I find interesting about this category is in 2023, the third place was a tie between Bleach, 1,000 Year Blood War Part 2, and Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village Arc. They both had 12% of the vote last year. This year, Demon Slayer dropped all the way down to 3%, and Bleach went up to 14%. So we're seeing this, new Bleach rising above as Demon Slayer falls below. And I have not seen either season, so I can't say, has Demon Slayer actually dropped off? Is Bleach getting better? But we're seeing that, changing of the guards as, speaking of remakes or shows coming back from the dead, Bleach has come out of the gate running and gaining steam. And as much as I'm not a Bleach fan, I love it for those fans to finally get rewarded after so many years of patience and continue to crush it. So honorable, mention that Bleach is at the top of its game.
And maybe no one loves Demon Slayer anymore.
Oh, no.
I think
I
think there are some heavy hitters in this category with Dawn to Dawn and Solo Leveling that what Demon Slayer had to offer in this category, it's more Demon Slayer, which are, I'm sure the fans really love. But now we have new things like Dawn to Dawn and Solo Leveling, which gather more attention.
Twitch is saying the Hashira training arc just wasn't very good. I mean, I didn't watch it, but maybe that's the case. Then
Also, I feel like
terrible.
I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't know for certain, but training arc kind of gives it's more for development rather than for fighting, I would assume.
I think that's a good take. It definitely is more about story building than crazy animation and fight scenes as seasons passed. And I think the recency bias too with the new hotness. There's just stuff that's newer, cooler, more popular. And it's just, I'm not going to say it was a down season. It was just a different season. Just not as much action.
All right. I let Demon Slayer go a long time ago, personally. So
Yeah,
It's okay.
as tempting
I mean,
as
the movies kind of get me tempted to jump back into it, but not enough to go through another couple seasons that I haven't seen.
I know we're all really bricked up about like grown up, whatever the hell the little girl's name is. What the fuck was her name?
Nezuko.
Nezuko. We're all bricked up over Big Top
Yeah.
Nezuko and all the sexy demon ladies and the butterfly girl and all this. But you know what? Sometimes your actual brain has to win. That's where I am. Sometimes, not often. All right. Otaku, would you like to read the next category? It's everyone's favorite.
I would love to read this next category.
Everyone loves it.
So our next category is for Best Fantasy and Isekai. Nominees include Delicious in Dungeon, Dr. Elise, Frieren Beyond Journey's End, As a Reincarnated Aristocrat, I'll Use My Appraisal Skill to Rise in the World, Shangri-La Frontier, Solo Leveling, and Yatagarasu. The Raven Does Not Choose the Master.
There it is again. Those ravens.
How did it get there?
They are
Yes,
just
I wonder how that got
they
there.
are just hanging out.
But I think this one is also a no-brainer. With 63% of the vote, the winner for Best Fantasy Isekai is Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
The biggest win of the night. And you love to see it. You just love to see it. I'm a little surprised that Dungeon Meshi only got 13%.
Me too.
That's not a good sign.
But I'm not upset. I was, a little bit in my bones. I was like, it's been so long for Frieren. It's been a while. Like, how will it hold up over time? And obviously, Dungeon Meshi, it's also been a while for that. But to see Frieren come in and just crush where you want to see it feels right. So, very happy.
No, I feel like Delicious in Dungeon should have taken this one, or at least had put up a little more fight. Okay.
I agree.
Good.
Right
It's nice.
agree.
It's a nice fantasy world, but I feel like Delicious in Dungeon is a show where they really put in so much work into the world, which I feel like for best fantasy / isekai, it kind of that's the feature of the category is that fantasy, and I feel like Delicious in Dungeon put in the work for it.
Listen, I thought the best isekai of last year was Jobless Reincarnation. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even get nominated, but I feel like part of me thinks I need to go back and watch Frieren again because apparently it's the best fucking thing ever, but I just don't understand it. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well,
I
it's
think
on Netflix.
it's just not
now.
your kind of show.
It's
Hey,
clearly
another
not.
W for Netflix.
That's true. That's very true, but yeah. All right.
And remember, in a world of Frierens and Dungeon Meshies, people are still out here voting for Dr. Elise, Shangri-La Frontier, Yatagarasu got some votes. Like, it's
Got a smidgen.
everyone got a little something. So,
Yeah.
Frieren's not everyone's favorite show.
It's not a very
It should
good
be, but
it's not a good sign for Solo Leveling that it only got 9.8% of this vote. So that is not good. That's not good.
I feel like it could. I don't know. I mean,
Technically
I don't know, it just doesn't
takes
feel
place
like a
on Earth.
fantasy.
yeah.
Yeah. He gets isekai'd into those video game challenges, but I feel like it's not really the best representative of the category.
I mean, the whole show is about a city where like people live and they have powers and stuff. I mean, it's pretty clearly fantasy. I don't know. I just think Frieren was a just juggernaut. Just it's a buzzsaw. Everything that touches it, it gets maybe except Dawn to Dawn is getting buzzsawed. So
Solo leveling is wish fulfillment, not fantasy, but you're not wrong. We can
hey,
move on.
Wish fulfillment isn't a fantasy.
Not always.
Come on, Mason.
It's a stretch. I'll give it to you.
A lot of people are
we can go on to the
fantasizing
next
about
one.
a lot of people are fantasizing about being OP as fuck and having hot women draped all over them all the time. That's definitely a fantasy
Yeah.
people have.
Yeah.
All right, Mason, this is yours.
Next genre, best mecha / science fiction. Your nominees are Brave Bang Braverin, Dead Demons Day Destruction, Demon Lord 2099, Kaiju number 8, Metallic Rouge, Nier Automata version 1.1a Part 2,
Oh my god, you gotta be
Kingdom
kidding me.
Hearts
with
ass
this name.
title,
Yeah.
and Sandland. And your winner for the best science fiction / mecha anime of 2024 is Kaiju number 8.
It could have been it's not as bad as Near Replicant version 1.38587. It's like 42 numbers.
Over 2.
Fucking ridiculous. Well,
Sandland got 1 vote.
God,
Metallic Rouge got 1 vote.
Wow.
Those are the only shows with 1 vote out of the
Whoever's
hundreds.
listening who voted for that are probably like, God damn
They're
it.
probably like, I misclicked. I meant to hit, Braverin, and I accidentally hit the next one. No, maybe not. Kaiju number 8. How do we feel about that?
It was fine. I just
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think it's good for this category. I mean, it's not mecha, but it's kind of feels like. I mean, it's mecha in the way that that Attack on Titan is mecha. If people can make that.
Meat Suit Mecha.
Yeah. But I think it was a really fun show. I'm glad it got some props in this award series we have here.
I just feel like both of these genres are on life support. The mecha genre has been on life support for a long time, and I think that sci-fi is close behind it. I mean, they're both. I mean, mecha is sci-fi, but I mean, look at these categories. I mean, you had only a few shows. A few of these didn't get really any votes at all, and it's just it's funny how things change. I think we're definitely more into fantasy right now as a human race, as far as anime goes, and we don't give a fuck about sci-fi. I think it's dead. I think it's gone. I'm declaring it right here. Sci-fi is dead.
R.I.P.
Well, speaking of dead, I feel like Dead Demons did give it a fair try with the sci-fi this year. I think that's probably. I feel honestly, if we're talking about pure sci-fi, I think that this would be the best representative of what that is.
So I adore Day to Day. I think out of all the things for how abrasive and tough it is to watch, this isn't going to get a lot of popular interest because it's kind of so off-putting in so many ways. But I think it's what makes it special, what makes it mature, what makes it intense, and fitting. So the fact that it got second place with roughly 16% of the votes, like, I'm happy with that. I mean, obviously, I thought Kaiju number 8 was a little disappointing. We'll see how I talk about it later when we get to our most disappointing anime of the year. But I'm glad it did somewhat well, relatively. So, yeah, maybe this genre is tough to condense. But to Caroline's point, Dead Demons is probably as close to a platonic dictionary definition of science fiction that you're going to get in anime. And you got to hold on to that because we don't get many of them.
Also, I feel like Demon Lord 2099 should have been in fantasy or isekai rather than mecha sci-fi, but that's just me.
I think Kaiju number 8 is a mecha.
I think it is too, and I thought that it was a well-deserved win.
I mean,
I'm interested to hear where it fell short for Mason because I enjoyed it from start to finish, and I'm very much looking forward to more.
Getting called out.
Mr. Positivity over here. I thought Kaiju number 8 was great. I thought it was strong characters. I thought the fight scenes were great. I think that maybe this will keep the science fiction genre off of life support for now. It's getting there, though, Mitz. I agree with you. There's less and less raw science fiction every season, and that makes me sad.
Especially with how much I feel like, as going back to the whole Demon Lord 2099 thing, I think sci-fi and fantasy is getting a little mixed these days. Like, you can say something's a sci-fi, but it does have fantastical elements and vice versa.
I mean, some people argue Dandadan is sci-fi because of the alien element. A lot of it is opinion based.
But they haven't really backed it up with like scientific explanations for how things work at all.
I honestly, I truly think Dawn to Dawn is supernatural. I think, if you're going to put it in anything, it's probably supernatural, but we don't even have that category, so kind of hard to talk to that, but all right. Shall we continue? Let's continue.
We shall.
Yes. All right, next up we have most surprising anime. And the nominees are, let me just scroll down to it. Bravern, Delicious in Dungeon, as a reincarnated aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world. Solo Leveling, Yatagarasu, the Raven does not choose his master. Oh my god. There it is again. Guys, who keeps on nominating this? And it was Storia, Wand, and Sword. Oh wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Well, high five, Mason.
There it is again, the Raven.
And the winner is Delicious in Dungeon with 34.5% of the vote.
It was surprisingly delicious. I enjoyed Delicious in Dungeon a lot. I love honestly, just the sheer existence of the like dwarf guy in it, the whatever the hell he is. He's just so passionate about his food and all these like scenes of cooking food. It just makes you so fucking hungry, and it's just a ton of fun. I don't know. I really think that. Yeah, I just love it, and I thought Delicious in Dungeon had what I think is at least used to be a staple for anime that were great and would stick around in your mind for a while, and that is having a key foursome of characters that are absolutely unbelievable. So if you think about some of the shows from history that people remember, that are going to remember forever, Bebop, for me at least, Outlaw Star. You got shows like Black Lagoon that have a really good core cast of characters. These core like few characters that all have really good synergy and mesh well together is something that Delicious in Dungeon also has, and I think it really makes the show stand out when you have that. I think that the characters are really important, and they really make a difference. So that's my thought.
And I feel like with the elements that people knew about with this show going into it, that it was going to be too core, fantasy about food. It doesn't really. It's a slice of life about food, more like. I feel like that gives the impression that it's going to be not that entertaining and not worth the 24 episodes in one go. But I think the surprising elements that it brought in were the fact that the characters were so great and it looked great and the world building was great and it just held your attention more than you thought it would.
It did have some great world
building. So you kind of answered my question, but when I think of most surprising, I think of a show like Yatagarasu, which seemed to come out of nowhere. Didn't have any expectations for it. The promotional material didn't really sell me on it. But really on watching it, I found a phenomenal show. But for Caroline, you're the one who voted in Delicious in Dungeon, maybe because I stole Yatagarasu from you.
Crap.
And Mit's Solo Leveling, like Delicious in Dungeon and Solo Leveling are these monstrous properties that have ton of acclaim, ton of awards, ton of fans. And I was like, why was it surprising that they were good shows? And I guess to Caroline's point, you kind of answered, it didn't seem like your kind of thing, but it rose above what you were expecting. That's fair. But it seemed like I got exactly what I was expecting out of a trigger animated Delicious in Dungeon. So I wasn't like, oh wow. I was just like, this is pleasantly as good as I was hoping. So yeah, I don't have a question in there anymore because I think Caroline answered it. But that's my rant about watch Yatagarasu if you haven't yet, please.
It did get 10% of the vote, which I think is fair considering the other much more popular shows on this list. Because, I mean, with the most surprising anime, I feel like that show was surprising, as you said, because it was not real. It came out of nowhere. But the rest of the shows here are just generally very popular. So, of course, they were going to get more consideration. And
out of all the awards here, this was the most evenly split. I mean, obviously, Delicious won a lot with 34%, but everything else was like 13%, 14%, 16%. Like, it was a pretty good distribution across the board.
All right.
I'm kind of surprised that Wistoria got second place.
Did you watch Wistoria?
No, I didn't really.
So
You'd be surprised.
I didn't really hear.
I will tell you this.
Maybe I just ignored it because I didn't see it.
It is from the creator of Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? But it is a much more serious tone, far less harem element, and it's very, very dark. It definitely landed on my surprise radar. I had hopes because I am a fan of the Danmachi series. So when I heard that the creator's project was coming out animated, I was like, oh, let me see how this is. But it actually is animated very, very well. The fight sequences, the big battles, the characters, it's actually very entertaining. I would encourage you to give that one a shot. And I will give Yatagarasu a shot.
Should we write this down? Put this in stone?
Let's do it.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
I'll watch your show.
So I'll watch Wistoria, you'll watch Yatagarasu, and I think we'll talk about it whenever
I think that's a fair deal.
All right. Air shake.
Wow. There you have it. Live on air. Okay. Well, now we have the most disappointing anime, and most people will probably be able to predict this off of the list, I think. But there are also, for every anime that you didn't expect to be great, there's an anime that sucks. Well, I should say, you thought it was going to be great, and it ended up not being good. So, the nominees here, it's a short list, are Buchi Giri, in all capital letters, because, well, that's just how that anime kind of is. Kaiju number 8, MF Ghost, Season 2, Undead Unluck, and Uzumaki. And the winner, to no one's surprise, is Uzumaki. 53%.
It's still so fresh in my mind.
See, I will say that, like, this, I have the exact same thought that I think Mason was presenting for the last category, which was like, why is Delicious in Dungeon so surprising? Well, I'd like to say, why is Uzumaki not surprising? I mean, pretty much everything that anybody's ever tried to do of Junji Ito in anime form has been bad until now. I don't know. It just seems like they're not able to execute it, and I expected it to suck fully. And I didn't even watch it because I knew it was going to suck. Then it did, and I was like, prediction confirmed, and I just moved on with life. What do you think? Go ahead, Caroline.
Here's why. Yes, it took several years for them to make, and it suffered multiple setbacks, which isn't a great sign. But all the teasers they gave us and the staff behind it, it lent itself to maybe thinking, okay, all of these delays are happening because they are making it perfect for us. They made the first episode perfect for us. And then the drop down was dramatic and traumatic. That is why it's the most disappointing, because the first episode lent itself to for us to believe that this was actually the case, that it was delayed for good reason. And then the rest came, and I am very sad.
All right, so you're saying
my question for you, Mitz, is I think you nominated MF Ghost 2.
Yeah.
And I get being disappointed by MF Ghost Season 1. But did you think we were going to get like a radical turnaround in Season 2?
No, not really.
Okay.
I will say I did watch MF Ghost Season 2, and it was slightly better, but still not what people wanted. So,
Fair.
No,
you just needed something.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, damned if you get your hopes up, damned if you don't.
I will say, perhaps you're right with having already seen Season 1 of MF Ghost and realizing this is not as good as Initial D.
It's proof that we didn't have this category last year, that you were still so let down by MF Ghost.
That's
that
right.
It was still disappointing.
No, that's right.
Even
right.
now.
Yeah, I'm still coping with the loss of it all.
Yeah, exactly. That's how traumatic it was. So yeah. I see you. I see you.
I'm still surprised that Kaiju number 8 made it into this category. So Mason,
please
elaborate.
I mean, you got to go to episode 7. what was it? 700 something?
I don't know.
736 to get my full review. So I enjoyed the beginning of the Kaiju number 8 manga. So I was coming in with higher expectations, and both in the execution from a production standpoint and where the story went, I was really let down. Is Kaiju number 8 the worst show on this list? No. Is Kaiju number 8 the worst show I watched last year? Absolutely not. I just found it to be middling from a very strong start and a manga that I really enjoyed. So I was disappointed in that regard. So it was going from up here to meh, as opposed to a lot of these that went from medium expectations and ended up in the basement.
Okay.
I just wanted more from it. So I was let down. But I put this in knowing it was not going to win. But some people voted for me. So, well, not me directly. Well, they did. They just didn't know they were. So, any other thoughts?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Just that I hate that Google Forms does this, where it'll show a number, but because even if another number was higher than the other, because it had a decimal point in it, it's not showing up in the pie chart. So it made me think that Undead Unlock with 6% of the vote got second place, when really it was a tie between Bujigiri and MM Ghost, who had 6.4. It's just so dumb. I hate that. It makes it so hard to read these things.
Yeah, that is what it is.
All right, what's next?
Continue now.
Best film.
Here you go, Mason. This is your thing.
So, our next category, as Myth said, is Best Film. We have a whopping 3 nominees this year.
Wow.
I know. We have Haikyuu movie, The Dumpster Battle. We have Look Back. And we have Mononoke the movie, The Phantom in the Rain. And the winner is going to make Mason very happy. It's Look Back with 30.6%.
Oh, I think he actually was hoping for Mononoke.
I was hoping for more than a 49.1% abstain, honestly.
More?
Yeah.
I like less people abstaining, more people watching. I literally curtailed movies from this selection. I tried to limit the options to only 3 so people would actually watch enough to vote. Because I was like, Mononoke, that's on Netflix. Anyone can watch that. Look Back is less than an hour. And Haikyuu is on Crunchyroll. Like, it's so easy to watch these movies. I get going to the theaters is expensive and sometimes a premium currency, as Mitz mentioned. But all of these are easily available. And I'd be happy with any of them, honestly. Look Back was phenomenal. Mononoke, once again, a remake resurrection of sorts that had no reason being redone and coming back from the grave, but absolutely killed it with a viscerally intense experience. All of these are absolutely must-watches, and I'm glad people voted for some of them. But people, watch some movies. Watch some films. They're really good. I promise you. No complaints, though.
He's pleading with you, people. Come on. The man is pleading.
Yeah.
Well, what can you do?
Yeah.
This happens every year.
Has anyone else watched any movies on this panel? At least 2 of them?
Just Look Back.
I didn't watch any of these.
I'm not caught up in Haikyuu, and I honestly was not even thinking about Mononoke.
Yeah, I didn't.
Watch them. That's fine. That's fine. That's okay. They exist. You can watch them, and you should.
The only movie I did watch the Slam Dunk movie. It's kind of like.
I mean, Slam Dunk movie was phenomenal, and is also on Netflix.
Yep,
so,
there you go.
Once again, I really don't want to be a Netflix show. I hate it, but they are getting some good content, so I'm not going to complain.
All right, shall we continue? All right, we're on to the characters now, people. Best boy, best girl. This is what you came for. This is what you signed up for.
This is real money makers.
Yes. Right.
Best boy. The nominees are Himmel from Freirin, Kazuhiko Nukumizu from Makaine, Ken Takakura from Dandadan, Ranma from Ranma 1/2, Stark from Freirin, Senshi from Delicious in Dungeon, and Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. And your best boy for 2024 is Ken Takakura from Dandadan.
This is the 4th award for Dandadan.
Yeah, and similar, but not quite, to how Creepy Nuts won Best OP in both the number 1 and 2 slots. Stark and Himmel from Freirin, while both performing middly at like 13% each. If you combine them, that's 26%. That's enough for second place.
Yeah, it's still not enough to
kind
beat
of.
10 Ken Takakura,
No.
though.
Ken in first with 32%, and Senshi from Delicious and Dungeon, as Mitz mentioned earlier, at a pretty respectable 18%. So we got a lot of good boys. Another mostly well-distributed, awards thing. What do you guys think?
I just don't think that this again. I seemingly don't get it, but I just don't think Frieren has good characters. I mean, they're very dry, in my opinion. So I'm not really surprised that, neither of these guys really popped. So I mean,
well, you can make that opinion of Frieren and Fern pretty easily, but Himmel and Stark were the very much not dry characters of that show.
I mean, that might be true, but I still think that when you put them against characters like Senshi or Takakura, or even like other characters and I would say even like Ken Takakura is dry compared to someone like Kentaro Oe or Onizuka or something like that. Like they're just not even close. So I mean, I think you're reaching way down into the mediocre range for someone like Himmel. Like I'm surprised they even made this list.
Yeah, I feel like getting to these categories, and I have a bit more opinions on the Best Girl nomination, but, Best Boy and Best Girl to some extent has different meanings between, like, is this the best character, like the best male character in anime? Is this the just most adorable, must protect kind of character? He's the best boy? Is it the one that's like your heartthrob and your crush? There's a lot of different meanings to, I think, a lot of different folks, and as much as I love Frieren and the characters within it, I think single-handedly I wouldn't vote for any of them. Especially because it takes so many more pieces of that to form the Frieren puzzle, whereas something like, I'm going to jump ahead a bit, Mao Mao in Apothecary Diaries is like a one-woman show. She is like putting that on her back and carrying the team in a way that like a group dynamic like Delicious in Dungeon or Frieren doesn't quite give the same spotlight to. So it's tough.
I think I've had a lot of bad takes over the years, probably, but very respectfully, someone on Twitch said that that was the worst take I've ever had. So we're gonna look at Stark from Frieren, and we're gonna say that they're not a pissant compared to like Onizuka or Kenshin or Spike Spiegel or.
They're not.
I mean, give me a fucking break.
List, though.
What's that?
Those are not eligible nominations. So if you're going to make a point, maybe you should compare it to an actual character on the list.
I mean, I can. I mean, like
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think a character like Stark even sniffs like even like Ramna's pants, his panties. If Ramna he does wear them, I guess sometimes. I just didn't. This is not just me hating on Frieren. Like honestly, like. It's come and gone for me. Like I don't really care. I don't even have time to care really. But it's like I just don't think that. All I can remember about Stark is he had red hair. It's just like it just didn't. He doesn't jump off the page as like this is a driving piston in the engine of this anime. He's just in the anime, in my opinion. And I mean, I don't know. The worst take I've ever had. The worst ever. Is that Stark?
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst take.
I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look like back through the character lists here, but like I would say that even a character like the Merchant from Spice and Wolf is a better character than Stark. It's my opinion. Apparently, it's a really bad one, but
Otaku.
I was just gonna say, like, this might be just my opinion, but like the best boy, best girl categories, it's always in my mind has been, who do you root for the most? Who do you want to see achieve their goal or succeed the most? Who do you enjoy watching the most? And I think, to your point, Mitz, at least from Frieren, Himmel isn't in the show enough for me to be a driving force of a character in this category. He's important to the story. He's very important to the story. But he is not a focused character in that every single episode you are watching the show because you want to see what happens with Himmel. Frieren is the driving force of Frieren. And I think this category fleshed out the way it did because I was rooting for Ken every episode. I want him to get the girl. I want him to get his balls. I want everything for Ken. And that's why he's the best boy, because I am rooting hardest for him. But I don't think you're wrong in that there are certain characters that are a part of Frieren that are not as fleshed out and deep as some of the ones that you and I watched back in the early 2000s, for sure. But that's, for this specific topic, for this specific year, I think it ended the way it should have. Ken should have won, and he did.
I feel like, and we'll move on, I guess, because it's getting long, but I just feel like we dropped the ball in the category because, I think that a character like Himmel gets in this list because Frieren is a good anime and not because Himmel is, one of the best 7 characters of the year. I think if you just took the characters themselves out of the shows they're in, you could have a show that's not very good, but it has a really good, male character in it. That character could make the list, but... Go ahead.
I feel like if we were going to have multiple characters from a single show make a category like this, then Laios should have been in this category too, alongside Senshi, not Himmel alongside Stark.
I much prefer Frieren to Dungeon Meshi, but I would say that, for a category like this, Senshi and Laios were great picks as well. So someone had to go, but I think regardless, Ken would have won, and I think we're all okay with that, right?
I'm fine. We can move on. Caroline?
All right. Next category, of course, following up Best Boy, is Best Girl, which we have quite a few options to look at. And of course, I'm not ready because I have to scroll. All right, there we go. The nominees are Akane from Ranma 1/2, Alisa Kujo from Alia Hides Her Feelings in Russian, Anna Yanami from Makene, Holo from Spice and Wolf, Mao Mao from the Apothecary Diaries, Marcel from Delicious in Dungeon, Momo Ayase from Dandadan, and Yoshino Some from Yakuza Fiancé. And the winner of Best Girl is Momo Ayase from Dandadan. So, I think we have a lot of discussion here. Yeah, Momo had nearly 40% of the vote here. Just coming up behind her is Mao Mao with 21%. And yeah, this was a tough one. There were a lot of good characters in this list.
Well, people sure love some Dawn to Dawn. That's what I'll say. I mean, what the fuck? I can't believe Akane got such a low number. It's very... I
feel the same way about Anna from Makine.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I think she definitely deserved a higher share of the vote.
I would have taken the grandma from Dawn to Dawn over anybody else. I mean, that was a straight gilf. I mean, listen, first there was the MILF, and now, in 2024, there is the gilf, officially. And they actually make jokes about it in the anime, which I think is great. So...
I mean, Horo is kind of a gilf, if you think about it.
Well, she's extremely gilf.
Yeah.
And extremely got her little tail kicked in this poll at only 11% of the vote, which is...
Third place, but a far cry from the Momo Mao Mao tag team of 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that surprising, honestly. So,
but Caroline, how do you feel about this?
Well, I do feel like one of the best things about Dawn to Dawn was the character dynamics. So it's not that surprising that Momo and Ken ran the categories here. But was expecting a little bit more fight from Mao Mao. I mean, I think it is kind of respectable, 40 versus 21%. But I was kind of thinking that Mao Mao might win this one.
I'm with you. I would have gone for Mao Mao. She was just such a driver of that show, and she always, even this season now, she keeps it interesting. She's such a intelligent and dynamic character, but I really think this is another one of those awards where I feel if it was any other season and it was going up against anything else, I think Mao Mao would have taken it, but Dandadan is our juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not the biggest Apothecary Diaries fans. I'm not the biggest anything fan. You know that by now, listeners. That said, you take Ken out of the show, Momo doesn't do as well in this category. You take Momo out of the show, Ken doesn't do as well in her category. They have, they're the leaning towers that support each other to make a solid foundation that is the heart and soul of Dandadan. And, it makes sense that when one wins, the interactions that they're going to have are going to, help the others. So, rising tide sort of thing. So, I'm not surprised. I do wish Mau had put up more of a fight. But I think Marcel also deserves a little bit of credit for it. As much as I did not like her and was incredibly grating, I like the role she played on the team. I like her development, and I like how she transformed along the show. Not literally like other characters, but spoilers. Yeah, solid character there. Once again, going back to Mitsugi's, the core central Seinfeldian-esque cast of Delicious in Dungeon really goes a long way to make that show more compelling and more enduring, and more than just, haha, fantasy monsters go boop on the head. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that Alia got 4th place. I really don't think she was that great.
She's a terrible
especially
character.
Compared to Marcel, Anna, and, I haven't seen the other two. But yeah, I honestly don't think Alia was really the star of that show.
It was Yuki. We all know it's Yuki.
Yeah. If Yuki was in this category, I think she would have gotten 4th place as well, or even 3rd.
I didn't care for Alia at all. I mean, I thought she was like extremely flawed and very frustrating. But whatever. So I agree with Mao. I agree with Mao. I think that even though I'm not a very big fan of hers, she is kind of that whole show, and having doing so much heavy lifting on an anime that people in general really like kind of gives credence to the fact that she could have won the poll, but in the end, Dandadan is just, it's like shooting spitballs into the sun. Like, it's not even, it's just not happening here. So, all right, the next category is one that Mappa has won for like 7 straight years. I did go back and
Mappa won with like 45% of the vote last year, just crushing it. So.
Yeah.
Are they going to keep it going?
Best studio of 2024. So let's see. We'll find out here in a second. The nominees are A1 Pictures, Cloverworks, Madhouse, Mappa, Production IG, Science Saru, and Studio Pierrot. And the winner? The winner, with 22% of the vote, a fairly low number, is, yes, it is indeed Science Saru. Which is really the 6th win for Dandadan. And with Mappa only getting 17%, slipping big time.
So these results have inspired a future podcast topic I want to do.
Okay.
Which is, analyzing studios on their best works versus their popularity. And what makes a studio good? Is it one good show a year, one marvelous masterclass like Science Saru's Dandadan or Madhouse's Frieren? Or, and as much as I don't like some of the shows they came out with, I voted for A1 Pictures here because while they didn't put out my favorite show of the year, between Solo Leveling, Mashal Season 2, SAO Gun Gale Online 2, Make Ine, Nier Automata Core 2, like they pumped out a ton of pretty decent content. And you look at Science Saru and they came out with Dandadan Yes and the kind of dual feature of Guardian of Remembrance, The Colors Within, like a movie that just came out in 2025. Like people voted for this because of Dandadan. We all know that. Is that enough for one, smaller studio, yes, to compete with a juggernaut like A1 Pictures? Like the quality versus quantity kind of thing. And I think at some point, you got to give A1 Pictures some credit for what they did. So.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, if A1 Pictures is anything, it is very consistent. Consistent look, consistent quality. And yeah, they do like a ton of shows. And honestly, Makene was a really, as much as it kind of fell flat for me by the end, it was a great looking show. Better looking than it really needed to be.
Episodes. Yeah. And look I'm the Science Saru fanboy. Like that's the horse I should be standing in this race. And I do. They did an unbelievable job adapting Dandadan. No question. I mean, they won animation. The best studio because they came out with the best product. I don't know. But congrats to them. I mean, Madhouse yeah, they don't get credit for starting the beginning of Orb. I don't know if that's the best looking show, but I like them for it. But I don't know. I just, as much as I don't want to vote for Solo Leveling for anything, I think A1 Pictures should have gotten some more love here, and not, a distant fourth place, fifth place, whatever.
I think in a category like this, it's important to really look at quality and quantity being something together. Because I'm with you. If there are some studios that strictly exist to produce one specific project, and it might be a home run, and you could argue that they would be deserving of it. But if you have a studio that's cranking out 4, 5, 6 titles and all are solid, I think that should weigh more in voting in something like this versus just, well, they made the best anime, so they're the best studio.
Yeah. And there's no right answer, but
No.
Episode 775 in the future, we're talking about it. So buckle up. Any other thoughts, Mitz?
No, not really. So I just think people don't vote for stuff like A1 Pictures because they're not used to. It doesn't have cachet in people's minds. They're thinking every year everyone just goes, Science Sawdo is so great, and then they go, oh, Mappa, oh my god, it's so great, and then they just vote for them because I think that they're just used to thinking about those. They have more brand equity. I think a lot of people.
I think A1 had that in the past, but now they have they've just been around for too long. They've done too many things that people are like, yeah, A1, we know them.
They're a little more standard. But I think they've stepped it up this year compared to something like a Silverlink, or like they're putting up as much stuff, but it's just not anywhere on the same level. So we can move on, though.
All right, next category.
To the best, objectively the best category.
We get 2 left.
I know. It's the category that everybody's been waiting for. We are now going to do the worst of 2024, or as we affectionately refer to it, the Pooper Scooper.
That's right. Smells delicious.
Smells delicious in here. So we have some strong contenders here. We have Days with My Stepsister, Love is Indivisible by Twins, My Dear Friend Nokoten, and Train to the End of the World. A surprisingly large number of abstains here, but the winner with 31.9% of the vote is My Dear Friend Nokoten.
I gotta say,
tell you, this is one of the few shows that I can honestly say I gave it the college try and simply could not finish. I do not finish shows for the most part, but after the 3rd episode, it's just none of the humor landed. The characters were annoying. It was a complete miss for me. I couldn't continue past episode 3. So for me, this is a very deserving Pooper Scooper.
We could have used some more nominees in this category. Maybe it's difficult because we tend to not want to watch really bad shows. I think we could have done with maybe a couple more options. But yeah, I also tried out Nokotan. And after the first couple episodes, I'm like, I feel like my brain is going to melt out of my ears and nose if I continue watching this.
This is the hardest award to win. Anyone can make a great anime. You just walk up to the plate, have phenomenal writing, fantastic animation, and you win an award. That's so easy. But to win the Pooper Scooper, you have to be bad enough that people don't like it, but just memeable or good enough that it still gets popular enough that enough people watch it. Because there's probably much worse shows than Nokotan, but no one watched them because they were so bad. So you have to ride that sweet spot like Reborn as a Vending Machine did last year, where it's bad, but just curiously catch-onable enough that word gets around and people give it a shot. And it's tough. It's a very hard show and a very hard category to win. So is this the worst show of 2024? Maybe. But it's not good. And we can agree on that, I think.
I'm glad that Train didn't get shat on too much here, because I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but honestly, it did a lot more than it needed to do, I think.
I just hated that. I nominated that. I hated that anime. I hated it so much. I hated it. It was physically painful for me to watch that. It was just too fucking stupid to get out of its own way. I mean, That anime literally had such weird tone to it. Like, it was tonally, I feel like story-wise, that anime could have been meant for an adult. But then the tone and the substance of it, it was just mind-numbingly stupid. Like, it was meant for, like, 7-year-old brain rot on YouTube. Like, it was absolutely brutal. I wanted
What
to...
was so dumb? Was it the fact that they were communicating with Morse code by banging on train rail? But the train rail was also broken several times during their trip. So how they are communicating through these knocks, I wonder. That wasn't dumb at all.
Are you being facetious?
I am. Yeah, that was the one thing I held on to. I'm like, that does not make any sense. I know that there are a lot of things that don't make sense in this story, but that is the biggest one for me.
As like obviously an adult that's like past the anime expiration date by like 10 years supposedly, you know, when the episodic content of shows involves like tying the girls to cartoonishly drawn like anthropomorphic helicopters and having like their blades turn, like I'm just like, what in the fuck am I watching? It's just absolute nonsense. And I know people are listening. Some people are like, oh, I love Train Into the World. Okay, if you loved it, I'm happy for you. Really, I truly am. But I mean, that was rough. Like that's skibbity toilet to me level type stuff, to be frank. But we can move on we can move on to the real good shit. Yeah, the real good shit. I gave Mason the honor.
Oh, I was not even expecting it. So we have the final award of the evening, Best Anime of 2024. So hold on to your butts, because here are the nominees. The Apothecary Diaries, Don to Don, Delicious in Dungeon, Demon Slayer, Ashura Training Arc, Freirin, Beyond Journey's End, Makeine, Too Many Losing Heroines, Solo Leveling, and Yatagarasu, The Raven Does Not Choose Its Master.
There it is.
Wow.
The Power of Caroline.
Let's review. Best of 20. Yep, that was Caroline. She do be like that.
I had to make sure it was represented in this award series. I'm sorry.
Well, I will say that Yatagarasu did not win. So
what? Are you kidding?
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Spoiler, it did get one vote, which... Yep. All right.
Which is one vote. Which is less votes than the 2 people that abstained. 2 people on the most important category was like, nah, I'm good. And I get it. If you haven't seen enough of these, that's a very fair thing to make. But fuck? I'm glad to see only 2 people abstained. Your winner for the best anime of 2024 is Freirin, Beyond Journey's End.
And there you have it. Not even all that close, really.
The listeners got it right.
Yeah,
this
46%.
Is the only instance that something won over Don to Don in their category, I think.
When it came down to it, it clutched it out. Freirin clutched it big time.
I will say the only other anime that even was noticeable on the pie chart was Solo Leveling. It did get 10%, but that was a distant third. So, yeah, Freirin. There you go. This was the year of Freirin and Don to Don, honestly. I mean, I just feel like those 2 pretty much won every poll they showed up in, and if there was another anime that won a poll, like Best Comedy, which Konosuba won, it was only because these weren't in there. And if you had put Don to Don in Best Comedy, which it probably could have been... If you squint,
I mean, Don to Don could have been in literally every category. It had romance, it had action, it had comedy, it had, it was across the board.
It could have even been Mecha because
Sci-Fi, sure.
Isn't he technically like piloting the Turbo Granny?
Sure, in some
it's a Mecha.
Oh yeah, but it could also. I've heard people say it's sci-fi, which
but Freirin proving how timeless its nature is by sustaining this level of adoration over an entire year of not airing to still get the love warms my heart. And had Don to Don won, would I have been surprised? No, but I'm glad that Freirin just you'd love to see it.
I just double checked my math. It is still number 1 on Mal with a 9.31. I think it's deserved.
Literally nothing.
The score. Maybe not the ranking, but the score.
There's never been anything ever in anything that deserves a 93 out of 100 points. I mean, come on.
Record of Loto Sword?
No fucking way. I'm not even talking about anime.
CTO?
No, not, that means that like almost everybody who watched that show gave it a 9 or a 10. Everybody. How in the fuck? I can't. If I walk into and that's fine. Like whatever. It's whatever. But if I walk into, because that's just how things are. Everything's either a 0 or a 10. But if I go into a restaurant and I ask people, how many of you like water? I'm not going to be able to get that high of a percentage on water in a restaurant. I could be like, how many of you like pizza? It's either a 0 or a 10. Pizza will end up with like a 68. You won't be able to find anybody that agrees on no one agrees that much on something. Freyren can save humanity. All of the bickering and fighting everybody does, we'll just put Freyren out there. We'll all come together around it.
I was expecting Don and Freyren to be a little bit more neck and neck than they were.
Me too.
Like a 15%, what's the word? Deviation? Or is like
Delta
the difference
or
between
something?
Delta.
the
Yeah,
difference.
if you want to be a nerd. Delta. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not a nerd. But I was going for with difference between the scores. Yeah, I don't know, maybe a 10% difference I was expecting, but yeah.
Mason, can we get a Pareto chart of the delta between Don?
Yeah, let me just work up this macro real quick. I gotta get my VBA up on this computer.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna need that by end of day Wednesday.
GPS for
close of
reports on my
business.
desk. Yep.
I'm having PTSD for tomorrow.
Oh no.
I don't know. Man, just other observations. Demon Slayer didn't even get a heartbeat on this poll. It literally just snuffed out like an ant. Apothecary Diaries, I'm even more surprised. 6%. Wow. Absolutely.
Delicious in Dungeon is what I'm surprised by. 5.5%.
I mean, oh, holy shit. Yeah, I feel like
Freyren is just that good.
No, I think they are. I think Freyren and Dawn are just that good, and they're so good that no matter what was in the poll, they were going to win most of it. I think that was exactly my point. Yep.
But it just goes to show that it's all personal preference, because 2 people on this podcast were on the Don review and the Freyren review, and both of you rated Don higher.
Yeah. I mean, they're also very different shows.
Exactly. It's how you're feeling that day, how you're feeling that moment. Are you in the mood to watch it? Are you not? How much is it going to last with you? How much, Don's ending maybe wasn't the strongest, as, Twitch chat is referring to. So maybe that left people with a more sour taste in their mouth when they came to voting, and they'll come around to it. We'll see how season 2 of both of these shows coming up this year. Freyren's next year. But, yeah, we'll see how these shows evolve and how they change and how they get upended by the next new hot thing. But I think these are good results overall. I'm happy, and that makes some good results, right? That's how it works.
Yep.
If the numbers validate your opinions, they're worthy, and if they don't, they're just the uneducated masses.
That's right.
Good job, listeners. Thank you for voting. Thank you all the support and making us be able to do this and have a nice, big enough sample size that we can somewhat trust these results.
Are you playing us out?
Now,
That
here's
felt
a
like
question.
Oh, here we go.
No.
Okay.
Do you guys want to do a Razzies this year? Because, it is a little bit more negative, but it is also pretty funny.
No, because the Razzies are just me saying bad things about the shows that other people like. So I feel mean about that.
Mason doesn't want to hurt people's feelings that much.
Yeah, I want to do it insidiously and covertly.
I can't handle any more 1-star Apple Podcast reviews where people wish I die. So,
All right.
oh my goodness. Oh, okay. I don't have much more to say, honestly. I think it's self-explanatory.
Yep.
I don't think the final poll really is a very good reflection of the year, because I think all of these shows were for the most part really good. Even Apothecary Diaries is a perfectly fine show, even for someone like me who was bored, but it deserved more than 6%. So I don't think the poll really represents the year itself. That kind of makes it look like everything was kind of mid, except for these 2 shows, which I truly don't think is the case. I think pretty much everything on this final poll was good. I've seen most of them, but in the end, the blood is very thick for these two shows, and the fan bases are very, very passionate. So I think it shows, and there you go. I just wonder if they will win. I wonder if they will win again when the second seasons come out, or if they're going to get like, the Demon Slayer / Oshinoko treatment, where they just kind of like become afterthoughts, and they end up they're in the polls, but they get stomped by whatever's new. We'll see. I'm sure we're going to find out, but yeah, we'll have to see.
No, that's a great point, Mitz, where, Frieren gets 45% of the votes and Apothecary gets 6. Oh, does that mean it's 7 times better? No, it means enough people might have given Frieren a 9 and Apothecary an 8, or Solo Leveling a 7. Like, they're bunched together. It's tight-knit competition, similar to the OPs. Just a little bit better, one where it makes the difference. And, if you haven't seen any of these shows, this is probably a great recommendation list to go check out a bunch of different styles, a bunch of different creators, and see what you like. And make sure to vote next year when we do this.
I'm going to play us out because I think we can talk more in the after party. But yeah, so. But I like the result. I want to thank everybody that voted. So, it takes a village or whatever to get the polls completed. So I appreciate all the feedback people gave, and they took the time to do it. So, and I hope you keep enjoying these. We have our own little. I didn't even think about it, but we'll have to talk about it in the after party. But I assume that have the Anime Awards already happened?
They have.
All right, we'll have to.
The Reddit ones, or the Crunchyroll ones?
Well, I was specifically talking about the Crunchyroll ones, but.
Oh. I don't know. I don't follow.
We'll have to look it up, and we'll have to see how our result compares.
I think I would have heard if they did, so I don't think they did.
Yeah, subscribe to get our bonus content in this after party. It's going to be extra spicy. I guarantee you. I promise you that.
Oh, wow. Okay, I wasn't prepared for that. Okay. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. I love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.